So anyway, I was gonna go over copyright trolling. So I hadn't really heard of this before. I had heard of some stories here and there, but apparently this has been going on for the better part of a decade, where companies will submit thousands of copyright strikes, or not copyright strikes, but copyright lawsuits to potential pirates, right? People downloading, stuff illegally off the internet, and they, even if they're not super sure that that's the person that was doing it, they'll basically just file, and then that person will get served. Obviously, that they'll get a notification that they've have legal action against them, and most people will settle out of court. So that's how these companies get a lot of money, and most of these companies are not very upstanding companies, I guess. The main one that was focused on in the articles I was reading was a company called Strike 3 Holdings. They're heavily affiliated with the adult film industry, and they have been going after thousands of people a year, making millions off of people just settling out of court. Even if they know they're not guilty, they'll just settle out of court because it would be more expensive for them to go to court and try to fight it, rather than just pay the $1,000 or whatever that they would be to make it go away. As this has been progressing and it's been getting worse and worse, they've been filing more and more every year. In 2021, they filed over 1,900 privacy lawsuits against random people in the United States. So there's been some judges who have kind of started standing up to this and kind of looking at the evidence and saying, how sure are you that this person actually violated a law, or that this person is the person that you're talking about? Because they file so many of them, the courts, they're really not sure if what they're doing is actually legitimate or if they're just basically trying to get money. So they're basically accusing them of treating the court system as an ATM and just filing lawsuits against people to try to intimidate them for them to pay money, which again is also illegal. So there's actually one judge in Florida. It's a Florida District Court Judge, Ursula Ungaro, and they brought up the question that's been brought up multiple times before in other cases of IP address evidence, and saying an IP address does not necessarily equal a person. Like an IP address is not a person. An IP address is just something given out randomly, especially residential like ISPs will give out dynamic IPs, so they change constantly. And basically they're saying that this is not enough evidence anymore to bring these lawsuits to court. You have to have more evidence than just, hey, we traced this IP back to this router, so therefore this person is guilty. The courts are saying that is no longer enough evidence to bring this person to court, which I thought was pretty interesting. But my favorite case that was brought up was a retired police officer. The man is in his 70s, and Strike 3 basically served him a court subpoena saying that they were suing him because they traced his IP and he had downloaded a bunch of porn illegally onto his computer. Again, this guy's a retired police officer in his 70s and basically said that he is not to blame. He had nothing to do with this. And he actually countersued and went to court. They ruled in his favor, and he got paid upwards of $50,000 because he countersued. However, again, it took it was like $20,000 or something for him to countersue them and actually pursue it to the end. But yeah,
still $30,000 profit right there.
Yeah, he made a bunch of money.
Card.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But yeah, he made some good money off of it, and obviously they paid all his legal fees and stuff like that. I'm not exactly sure how much he made off of it, depending on his expenses and everything. But I thought that was a pretty good win because they've basically just been constantly filing lawsuits against people that they're not even sure if that was the person that actually did it. They're just hoping that person files out of court, and they target people, specifically individuals, so that they hopefully will not countersue them. So they're not going after they're not going after a millionaire or something like that. They're going after just regular people because they know it'll be super expensive for them to go to court. New York also stepped in and suspended a copyright troll lawyer. He had filed thousands of similar cases, and at first he advocated for photographers. I guess a lot of news channels and stuff will use photographers. They'll just gather them from the web and just use them willy-nilly, regardless of copyright. And at first he was kind of an advocate for independent photographers, saying that, they have the rights to the photographs that they take. And but eventually he was basically just kind of a shill for any company that wanted to sue people for copyright infringement. And he just overwhelmingly, most of them were obviously had nothing to stand on. They were fraudulent. They were basically just doing it hoping that people would settle out of court. And New York eventually banned him from practicing law in New York. And several other states have also, looks like Tennessee, Colorado, and Illinois also followed suit and banned him from practicing law. Basically just to send a message that, hey, if you do this to excess and you do it basically just bogging down the court system with these bullshit claims that, claiming this person tied to this IP, which may or may not be true, pirated some certain software, therefore you're going to hope that they settle out of court and pay you money. So yeah, I thought that was a interesting story, and it seems like it's being taken care of correctly, I guess.
Well, speaking of Strike 3, I didn't realize we had similar articles, but
yeah,
there's one out of the Central District of California. They were trying to sue a John Doe.
Oh, really?
Around, it supposedly pirated 54 movies, and they requested permission to inspect a copy of his hard drive and his cloud hosting accounts for evidence. The defendant objected to this and said that handing over his hard drive would also reveal privacy sensitive information such as family photos and even stuff that is content protected by attorney-client privilege and stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah.
So after hearing it, there's this U.S. Judge Sherry Pym. She ruled that she sided with the defendant, basically saying while the hard drive and the cloud hosting accounts may offer important evidence, you can't encroach on his privacy. So they actually denied handing over the hard drive. So that was kind of an interesting take, and I just thought it was funny that we both had Strike 3 stories.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been, I'm not too surprised because it seems like they've been pretty prolific with their trying to bring lawsuits to court. It's kind of nice to see that judges are kind of taking this seriously rather than just kind of brushing to the side and not really caring about it. But it seems like they are noticing, and they're actually holding them accountable for basically wasting the judicial system's time. But this is also not limited to the states as well. This is, I guess, a big issue overseas as well. In Europe, there was a Danish law firm called Njord Law. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But they were basically doing the same thing, where they work with movie companies to extract cash settlements from alleged pirates. And they were doing the same thing, hundreds of, if not thousands of cases that were just brought to court, hoping that they would settle. The asked amount was usually $1,200 from people, but eventually the Danish court system was just saying no. Most of these don't make any sense. You're just randomly going around suing all these people who may or may not have anything to do with it. You have no way to prove that it was actually them. All you have is an IP address. So we're not going to take this seriously any longer.